Welcome everybody to the Cast from the Coast. My name is Adam Miles and I'm joined as always by Josh Lambert, Aaron Peerless, and Tim Johnson. What are we talking about tonight, Tim?
We are talking about the iconic 1981 classic, The Evil Dead.
Stay tuned. Give us the synopsis, Tim.
All right. 5 college students take time off to spend a peaceful vacation in a remote cabin. There's a book and an audio tape discovered, and its evil is found to be powerful once the incantations are read out loud. The friends find themselves helpless to stop the evil as it takes them one by one, with only one survivor left, with the evil dead, and desperately tries to fight off to save himself until morning.
Excellent.
Oh, you yawn, Josh?
I saw that.
He's seen this movie so many fucking times, he proceeds to yawn when Tim gives the synopsis.
That was
right.
I gave that came from my
Take
soul.
no offense to my yawns. We are past my bedtime.
Okay, we're past Josh's bedtime, so we better make this conversation interesting. So, let's talk a little bit about this story. So this is a very, like you said, Tim, iconic story that has been replicated many times. Not just
It's one of those movies that's known as a cult classic and actually is a cult classic.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that term gets slung around a lot, but like this movie is a cult classic.
Yeah.
To the point where you couldn't find it in video stores. It was hard to find.
Yeah.
And it has the reputation for being the most stolen VHS from video stores. Because people would find it and just never return it.
It was worth the purchase price that you would get charged by the store to keep a fucking copy of it for yourself because you just couldn't find it otherwise.
As someone who used to go to Blockbuster and do that, I can attest. I would go to Blockbuster, find rare, obscure Bruce Campbell movies. This is before, like, eBay and stuff. And I would say, okay, can I just buy it? And they'd say, well, no, that's not how Blockbuster works. I said, well, what happens if I just don't return it? Well, you'll get late fees for 5 weeks, and then we'll just charge you $40 to your account. I said, so I can buy it for $40? Okay, I'll take it.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, I worked there, and I remember.
You worked at Blockbuster too?
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Aaron, you worked at the one in New Minas, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh man.
When did you work there?
Oh man.
What year?
Oh. Let's see here.
Yet another time I guarantee I seen Aaron back in our younger days and never realized who the fuck he was.
I'm just thinking that I definitely bought Man with a Screaming Brain from Aaron, and he probably told me that you can't just buy it, you have to rent it.
Aaron's the one who personally charged you the $40 to your account for it.
Probably.
I think it was 96 or something. 96.
Oh yeah, I was like 2000. I want to say 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
2000. 2000. At least 2009. I worked there. I worked there right before they got the "hey, we're gonna close" type of thing. So
Yeah. No, I was in it to win it early.
back in like '96. That's when I moved to where I am now, and we used to go to New Minas all the time and rent from Blockbuster. So yeah, I guarantee we cross paths.
I had the pleated beige khaki pants.
Nice, nice. So did I. I had Dickies. Dickies with that fucking crease. Yeah. Don't fuck around with Dickies work pants, man.
Well,
Oh man.
Dickies in a blue polo. You boys
Yeah.
be looking sharp.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Tim, it was all about the rentals, brother.
Yep.
You work there, you get like 10
Holy
free.
fuck! It was a 10 a week, and then you get them like a week. It's the new releases before everybody else. It's like
Yeah.
I'm watching this motherfucker like a week before you. I felt so special. I love that shit. Love that
Yeah.
shit.
But really, you could explain to everybody what how good a movie it was, or maybe you shouldn't let your kids watch it or whatever. So it did make sense, but it was pretty cool perk.
Well, I thought I was gonna be an asshole and just be the guy that's fucking like shitting on everybody. What are you renting that for? But I was so nice. Like I was so nice, and I thought going into it I was gonna be like the movie asshole, and I wasn't.
You were gonna be like
I was like,
Randall
man,
from
that
Clerks.
Yeah, yes. I thought I was gonna be Randall. Every other aspect of my life, I'm Randall. And then I actually get the opportunity to work at a video store, and I'm not. I'm nice.
I was like, I'd always look at somebody and say, well, that movie sucks, but here's some Mike and Ike's might make it a little better.
Oh man. All right, so back to the Evil Dead, gentlemen, our discussion for the night. So this story has been talked about, for the ages, and you can watch any form of real horror documentary, and you'll get the bigwigs in horror, like Eli Roth, and fucking right out to even the old time horror fanatics saying this is a movie that really kind of opened people's eyes as to what you could do with little to no budget whatsoever. Basically, just a group of friends who wanted to make art is what this movie
That
is
is the big thing to keep in mind when we're talking about this movie.
Yes.
This isn't Hollywood. This is
Wow,
Sam Raimi.
to be actually
and his
part of a
college
group
friends.
that actually makes movies and sees them through.
Wow, Tim.
Looking at Adam again. I'm just kidding, buddy.
I know you are.
Just
I know
kidding.
you are. So yeah, so the story itself is, once again, we're talking about this. It's been replicated so many times. People have tried to do the same thing over and over. Things get compared to this movie is really what it comes down to. When somebody sees a movie with a cabin, a woods, dead zombie type of creatures, a woods. The first thing that usually comes to mind is fucking Evil Dead. All right, I'm done for the fucking night. Get out of here.
A bush,
A shrubbery.
Fucking rock.
Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about some fucking characters now because I'm done talking about the story, apparently.
No. Okay, we're not done.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so me going into this, okay, Adam brought up a bunch of very good points. This movie's been replicated, right? So what I thought I'd do when I sat down to watch this for this review was completely forget about every other Evil Dead movie and every other fucking, like, someone trying to replicate it. Like, this is the only one that exists. I tried to psych myself up to how would it have been to watch this back in 1981, and it was extremely, extremely hard, right? Because
It's almost impossible to forget about all the content that's already out there.
well, I mean, in my personal opinion, Evil Dead 2 is a far superior movie, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree. But if the Evil Dead didn't exist, we wouldn't have had all these fucking sequels.
Right.
This story is so stupid simple. So stupid simple. And the
That's
fact
my
that
love of it.
it's that's what made this movie work, was you got 5 people in one cabin, the woods are haunted, shit's trying to get them, survive until morning, like that's going to make it okay. Once the sun comes up, everything's going to be okay. And it almost makes me feel like it's got those kind of, like, back when you were like, cavemen, You know what I mean? Like the stories of, you got to stay around the fire at night because, you'll get picked off by predators in the woods. Like one of those kind of like stories.
Tooth. A saber.
Yeah, saber tooth.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like it's funny because like the movie's so iconic, right? And all the sequels are so iconic. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
How did you sum it up? Read from the book, you die.
No, they find a book. Don't read the book. I'm going to read the book. You die.
You die. Pretty basic rule, folks.
Don't read the fucking books.
Play the tape.
Yeah, don't play the tape. Don't read the books. Yeah. Okay. Moving on, I guess then. So it has its ups and its downs, and we'll keep simplicity in mind 100% as we're going through the review tonight. And I felt the same way as Tim. I went into this movie. I put it up on the projector. Jacob sat down and watched it with me because he's never seen part one. The last time I sat down and watched it, he didn't watch it with me. He started at part two. So
I had to fucking force my kid to watch it. He did not want to watch it. That's the bad one, isn't it? That's what he said. That's the bad one, isn't it?
You tell that ungrateful little shit. You sit there and you watch it and you like it.
Well, he's a big fan of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and he loved Ash vs. Evil Dead. So he is a fan.
You make him watch Within the Woods, and then he'll be begging to watch The Evil Dead.
Jacob came out at the end of this one going, that was actually a pretty good movie. Evil Dead 2 is much better, but that was pretty good. So I'm like, okay. He caught on. It's okay. So who do we have in the movie specifically? So the first person that
Let's talk about the main character, Scott.
Who you think is the main character, apparently.
That's very true.
Yeah, it is. Like the movie's made out like Bruce is he's a secondary character for like at least the first third of the movie. He's just there.
I like that. Yeah, I like how they did that. That was kind of neat.
Absolutely. So Scott, Richard Demanencore. I had to like bring it up.
That's a fucking awesome last name.
Demanencore. Right?
Sounds like a fucking Bond villain.
He was actually credited originally as Hal Delrich.
Yeah,
that's even better.
So, something important to know about this film. Screen Actors Guild was not involved at all. They did a lot of things that they really weren't supposed to do. So, the actors that thought they had actual acting careers to go to didn't want to use their real names, and they were genuinely concerned. And I think Betsy was the one that actually got suspended from the Screen Actors Guild for being in this film.
Oh, and crediting herself like in the movie?
Yeah, you can get this even in today's world. You're going to a film that, they ask if you're unionized or whatever. You can,
absolutely.
and you can get in some serious crap.
I feel like I'm going to be fighting Josh with fucking trivia tonight.
Well, it's not even trivia for me, man. Like when you watch
fucking
100
facts.
times, it's just facts. It's just
Adam with the fucking authority there. Fucking facts.
There's no fucking trivia. This isn't a game. This is life.
Wow.
Oh man. Okay.
Y'all need to settle down.
Apparently. All right. So yes, we have Scott. So Scotty, he starts off in the movie. He's basically almost brought out like the main character right off the bat. Like he's the strong one. He's the leader of the little group, as it were.
He's the one driving Ash's car for some reason.
Driving the fucking Delta. He's moving along.
so he can be in the back with Linda.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
And his sister.
And his sister.
You know what's funny though? For the longest time, I did not like Cheryl. Right?
No one likes Cheryl.
But this time watching it, I liked Cheryl.
I appreciated her character.
So,
yeah.
Have you guys ever watched or listened to or seen the musical?
No.
It's an ongoing gag in the musical that Scotty just refers to Cheryl as a stupid bitch. Like every time she opens her mouth, he's like, "What a stupid bitch!"
No, but I don't know what it was that made me like her character. Nothing changed, but it's just this time watching it, like she didn't annoy me. She was, I mean, she's the one under the cellar talking shit, and that's an iconic role. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're still talking about Scott.
Yeah, Scotty.
Scotty.
Our leader, our fearless leader who turns into an asshole later on in the movie and basically
I'm fucking leaving.
fucking leaving and decides to like leave his friends for dead and shit and come
I identified with Scotty so much at that point.
like fuck everybody.
Yes, finally, someone with some common sense. Get out of here, Scott.
Well,
Can you imagine if the four of us were in that fucking cabin?
Oh, buddy, that'd be me. I'd be
I'm the
gone.
one underneath the fucking cellar, fucking
Yeah.
calling Adam fucking salty tits and shit. My dead-eyed eyes.
salty
tits,
salty tits.
Aaron hacks
Fucking
up
Aaron.
Adam.
Aaron is grinning with the fucking Joker makeup on the floor, and fucking Adam and Josh is like, "Fuck this, I'm leaving."
So
Fuck Aaron.
You
Fuck
can't leave them.
him.
They're our friends.
Yeah.
wait, I'm somewhat honored you made me out to be the Ash character here all of a sudden. Somewhat honored, I guess.
Yeah, but you're Ash in Evil Dead 1.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you bold
I am
ass. You're
bowl cut Ash, the pussy boy nobody likes. Oh man, yeah. So Scotty definitely he goes from being very. It isn't a quick thing, but about halfway through the movie takes a big turn, and his character just on a fucking dime changes to, you know, no longer the we need to get our head straight and figure out what's going on. He's just like fuck this shit, and he just fucking hightails it out of here, right?
Well, he just hacked up his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So
He did.
And he's like, all right, this is too crazy for me. I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Like that's what took it too crazy. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Forget fucking Cheryl underneath the
floorboards.
the crawl space that looks like a fucking, you know, all deadite up, right?
Yeah.
No, that's fucked up. But this is even worse, so I'm getting the fuck out of here. So, you know. All right.
So we got Scotty. We got Shelly, his girlfriend, who gets hacked up, dismembered.
We do have
I
Shelly.
feel that she was out of all five of them, she was like the most
forgettable.
throwaway
Yeah, the
character,
weakest
like,
character in the movie. She was made to be fodder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They even, again, in the musical, they make reference to that. They joke. Ash is like, you can't kill Shelly. She's our friend. And Scotty's like, I just met the bitch at a bar 2 hours ago.
Met the bitch at a bar.
Because they don't have any dynamic with them. It seems like all the other characters know each other and have been friends for a long time. But Shelly just kind of like,
He just seems like he
Scotty's
picked her up to take her for the weekend. Yeah, literally.
definitely.
Yeah, they don't look like they've been dating forever.
No, she was kind of just there.
Yeah. She wasn't really anything extremely important by any means, and she didn't, in my opinion, she didn't really throw the storyline along even. I mean, when she turns and gets hacked up and everything else, you know, shit's really starting to happen further, but she was just, yeah, I don't know, she was kind of useless, which is why I think that when you get into the Evil Dead 2, and they took the first X amount of moments from Evil Dead 2 to retell the story of Evil Dead 1, as it were, to continue the storyline. It's almost like they saw some of that and realized, you know, we can kind of drop some of the dead fucking weight here. You know what I mean? And push.
We're not talking about Evil Dead 2.
No, but it just goes to show.
That's the next episode. Bud.
Is it though, Tim?
Yeah.
Thanks for fucking spoiling it.
I saw the schedule.
All right, so we're gonna move on from Shelley then, and we're gonna talk instead about. Let's talk about Cheryl.
Cheryl. The
Like I
hippie
said,
sister.
Yeah.
I didn't like her forever, and for some reason, this viewing, I got her character. I got it. She was the like, you know, Linda's built up as, you know, Ash's love interest, but like that's his sister, and he loves his sister, and I always loved that she just referred to him as Ashley, right? Because you know Ash as Ash,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Right? But his name's Ashley.
Ashley.
Ashley
is.
J. Williams, right? Like,
You know what the J stands for, right?
no,
Jonah.
Ashley Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams.
Wow. But I find Cheryl is like basically kind of the most important character at the start. Like, she's the one that fucking freaks out when they bring up the shit from the basement. Turn it off, turn it off. For whatever reason, it just gets to her. And then she has that whole moment where she's like, she's drawing this nice picture of the fucking clock and then, like, does the fucking Necronomicon or whatever, which is actually very hard to do. So for her to be able to do that and have it look like she's possessed, but still do something that's recognizable. Her sketch looked more like the Necronomicon than the Necronomicon actually looks, which is, you know. But you know, she the whole. You know, she wanted to leave. She's running in the it gets raped by the trees. The tree rape scene. She's the first one to turn into a deadite. Like,
She's the cellar witch.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciated her character this viewing because, like I said, you see that same character or the same like story beats, but they're put on different people in the different ones, right? So, like, you know, in the sequel, it's someone else, and in the remake, it's Mia, and like, do you know what I mean? So, like, that role is very important, and I never got it until this viewing. And yeah, I'm a Cheryl fan.
And again, it's that one of my favorite tropes. What I call the child's play trope, where you know something bad is happening and you're trying to convince people and no one believes you. She just got raped by trees and she's trying to get her brother to drive her home.
Fuck, that one tree that just went poof. Whoa.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's fucking brutal, man.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you
and
know,
that's what got the title of Video Nasties for this movie. That got it banned from, like, Australia for 30 years.
And
or
why
whatever.
Sam Raimi had to show up in fucking court in the fucking UK.
Imagine showing up to court and explaining that, you know, it's just artistic liberties when you try to cram branches up.
We wanted to fuck her with a tree.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But you bring up a good point, Tim. She holds, I mean, in my opinion, after watching the movie this last time and kind of really taking things in, aside from Ash, she's probably the most important character aside from Ash. Because she's not the final guy, as Ash turns out to be, but she is major plot points in the movie. She really is.
Oh, she's absolutely the one character until she dies. She's the one character that's stringing the story along.
Yeah.
It all. She starts it all for sure.
Yeah. Right.
You get the feel for how creepy this is when you see her running through the woods and all of a sudden the vines come to life. You're like, okay, here it goes. And this is fucking brutal. Like, okay, what else is going to happen in this film, right?
Well, and it's funny too because, like, the tree rape scene, it starts off looking like fucking something you'd see in hentai porn, right? Like, you know, the gratuitous wrapping around the boob and all this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden it does a wide shot and poof, like that one fucking tree branch just right.
Yeah, but they slowly open her legs, like the camera angles, like it just goes like this, and you're like, what is going on here, right?
Yeah.
So I might have told this story before, but this is my favorite movie of all time, and the biggest reason why.
Don't fucking say.
Well, just in general, the Evil Dead series.
Oh, okay.
The reason why is because it was the one horror movie I wasn't allowed to watch growing up. So I would watch Child's Play, I'd watch Friday, I'd watch Nightmare, and all these like classic horror films. But for whatever reason, my parents felt it wasn't okay to have The Evil Dead and watch that.
Was it because of that scene?
I'm only guessing as much, and I can remember getting it for like my 12th or 13th Christmas, and getting the VHS copy for Christmas, and being told you can't watch this today. It's Christmas, and that is like the sin of all sins. You can't watch this horrific movie on Christmas Day. And immediately after presents are done and breakfast is eaten, I'm in my room watching this movie for the first time on Christmas Day.
Wow.
That's
That was adorable. Adorable little story, Josh.
I love that story. That's a good story.
oh man. No, that's oh wow. Fucking Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. The greatest Christmas present of all time.
Only you, Josh. Only you.
The gift of Evil Dead. The gift of Bruce Campbell.
Nice. So then we also have Linda. So Linda is an important character. It's Ash's girlfriend.
But do you want to know what, though? And I'm just going to cut you off there for a sec, Adam. I feel Linda in this movie is a throwaway character as well. I feel that in Evil Dead 2, she's not.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that, like, because of her importance in Evil Dead 2, you kind of give her more importance in the first one. But really, like, again, I said I tried to watch this objectively.
Right.
I feel like she was a throwaway character. Like, she was there to make Ash seem like he's a nice guy, giving her the fucking, the little mirror medallion, and
So part of that is because the original script involved that medallion a lot more. So her point in the story was to be the reason why that medallion existed, basically. So the original script, they had intended for the sun to start rising, and instead of the book being burned in the fireplace, Ash was going to grab the magnifying glass and hold it up to the ray of sun, and it was going to shoot through and burn the book.
Okay.
That was the original storyline. That was why they had this god ugly magnifying glass.
It's fucking huge.
I actually have a replica cast off the original on its way from these amazing people on the Knights of Samaria.
That place is a fucking toy store for you, buddy.
Oh, I did. So they've 3D rendered like an exact replica. The fellow that makes it is called Makes Me A ... That's his Facebook page. Makes Me A ... And they do all kinds of props, and it's all 3D printed and then casting. So they got a hold of a screen accurate one that was used in Ash versus Evil Dead, and then rendered it into 3D, printed it, and cast it, and painted it, and did all their thing, and it's en route.
Crazy. And you're gonna unbox that on the show.
Definitely, 100%.
Because it was funny, because I'm watching it, and I'm like, I wonder if Josh owns that.
Yeah. If there is an iconic prop in Evil Dead, I either have plans to own it, or I'm currently hunting for it.
Lovely. But, I know what we're saying about the character and how you feel that she's got a throwaway, but aside from Cheryl, I think that she was the other creepiest, Deadite. Like, with her, the fucking giggling and shit. But she also brought out one of the best fucking scenes, the funniest scenes in the movie, as it were, because the movie's not extremely funny. But it really shows Bruce Campbell, for what he is and his capability. He's like yelling at her, and he goes to like fucking slap her, and he backhands her. And when he comes back for another backhand, it's like both arms fucking swinging and shit.
Yeah.
Photo. Every fucking time I see that scene, I laugh my ass off, and it's no wonder she's giggling. Even she's laughing at it.
I don't think I can agree at all with saying she's a throwaway character. It invokes the idea of you're in a cabin with your girlfriend, and you gotta kill her. Are you up to it?
She also has...
Yeah, but that theme was already played out with fucking Shelley and Scott.
Yeah, but
You
Shelley
see what I
was just
mean?
a hoe. She's just a hoe that he picked up at the bar.
Do you know what I mean, though? Like, that theme was already played. I'm not saying... Like, I like Linda's character. She was very fucking annoying when she was giggling. Like, I would have killed that bitch too. But, yeah.
In saying that though, I think that makeup fit her character right there. And I think like when I was trying to look at the different makeups that were going on in this, I think that makeup made a lot of sense compared to others. When she was sitting there in the door frame, like giggling like that, I was like, okay, that makeup looks like it fits this whole scenario that's going on here.
And back in '81, I'm sure that was creepy as fuck.
Right.
Right. But yeah, my favorite scene is when Ash is like double slapping.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's really good, and it's
I also like the beam when he's out burying her, and they had
Yeah.
the beam, and he's just whacking her with the beam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was watching one of the documentaries on that. They were saying that they were like pre-constructed
The big
fake
foam
foam
beam.
beams from like
Yeah.
Sears or some shit.
No.
But it's still heavy as fuck.
It's still heavy as shit.
It's still like a
And
10 pound.
She got it like right on the
coming at your
chin or something like this at one point, and she was like bawling her eyes out because it hurt so bad and shit. It was hilarious.
And Sam's like, "Keep going,
Keep going!" But with Linda, she actually, out of everything, and we're going to talk about effects a little bit later, she got one of the most, in my opinion, cringe-worthy. I don't mean like shitty. I mean like, I went, ow, the first time I ever seen it, and I still cringe when I watch it. When she gets the fucking pencil
And
in the ankle, that is, in my opinion, and I will stand by this, the best effect in the entire fucking movie. It is the most
I can agree with
cringing scene, because can you imagine getting a fucking pencil in your heel like that? That would hurt.
it is also my favorite Foley of all time. When I talk about Foley work, the pencil being stabbed into an apple, which is what they used for that scene, gives it such a weird sound.
Oh, yeah, like
it's
it's
like
popping.
a suction going in, and then it pulls out. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously we have the man of the movie himself. We have Ashley Jonah Williams
Better known as Ash.
Ash. I don't really have a lot to say about Ash in this movie that I haven't already said, because reality being, this movie was the first of the Evil Dead, obviously, aside from, the original Within the Woods. But this is what introduced us to Ash. But you got to look back at it and know that this is not the Ash that you would later come to love. This is just another character who was supposed to be the final man, the final girl trope, but it's a final guy, which didn't even turn out to be the way that this movie ends. Like, plain and simple, Sam Raimi intended for him to fucking die on the steps at the end. There was never a thought that a sequel would happen. So when they kind of retconned the situation and changed it in the second one, they made a better character of him almost entirely by doing what they did. I really don't have a lot of love for Ash in this movie.
But
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I agree with you, Adam, but the Ash in this movie still ends up being Ash.
Yeah. This shows his full character arc.
Yeah.
He starts as a mega wimp. He just works at the hardware section in S-Mart. He hooks up with the cashier, Linda. He's sappy. He's buying her this ugly-ass jewelry.
Yeah.
He's a wuss, getting knocked over all the time. And there's a point in the movie where he fucking breaks.
Yeah.
He's mentally goes insane. He's trying to booze up Scotty, and Scotty's dead. And he's talking to him like everything's going to be all right.
Buddy. Come on, buddy.
But it's just good character development is all we're seeing. And we're seeing the start of it.
Yeah. And it, again, watching this with, not rose-colored glasses, being in the movie now in 2020, okay? I liked, again, because I was never a fan. This was my least favorite out of all the Evil Dead, right? Because Evil Dead is so much fun. I fucking love that movie. But I digress. But Josh, you said it right there. You're getting the complete. This is how he was. He ends up this way. Then when we see him in, say, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash versus Evil Dead, you have a greater appreciation of he evolved into the Ash that we love. Because, I mean, as awesome as Ash is in Evil Dead 2, I kind of like that. like I wish that he would have started as kind of a nerd at the start and then became the badass. Like,
Well, he
Yeah.
kind of did when they kind of retconned it. He did start nerdishly, so to speak, in Evil Dead 2.
but not evil. The
He
Evil
was
Dead.
still
nerd.
very suave.
Yeah,
He was still suave, Bruce.
Except for his haircut.
he didn't have such a bowl cut, so he's
And I
fine.
love that little fucking scene where it went on way too long, where he had his
Fake
eyes
sleep.
closed and
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the
stealing
fake
from the blind man or whatever.
Blind man area.
like I liked it, but like it
It's
just went on.
cheesy. It's
It went
maximum
on way
cheese.
too long.
Totally
Um,
maximum.
Close-ups of the eyes and everything. I love that.
Yeah.
But again, like I've said with everything else, I have a greater appreciation of Ash in this movie because, like, even at the end when he does snap, he's still not badass.
No.
He's just reacting, right? Whereas, you know, you look at him in Ash versus Evil Dead, he's a goof, but like he's badass, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you watch him take on Linda right before he's trying to bury her and stuff. It's all reaction based. It's not him setting out to fight or whatever, right? So I don't know. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Adam. And I was there for the longest time, but this viewing kind of changed my perspective for some reason. Maybe I should watch all movies like that.
You should. You should try to, anyways.
It was so hard. It was so hard.
Well,
Because
It
it's
is.
like, when he cuts off Linda's head, that looks so much better in part 2. You know what I mean? Like,
but you bring up a point about how we're watching the movies too, because it's not uncommon for me to just throw on a movie and it's background noise. You know, sometimes I do feel after doing this show and the amount of time that we spend watching the same movies that we've loved forever, but rewatching them from a different perspective or kind of
From a
a
critic
standpoint
instead of
and
just
pulling into the movie and really taking notice of things, you know, it makes me realize that there's a lot of movies that I just take for fucking granted nowadays. You know what I mean? They're there, and you know, are they really that wonderful or are they really that shitty? Because my opinion has changed, fucking, you know, 180 degrees for a lot of movies in the last few years. You know what I mean? I've movies that I've absolutely fucking adored. I've looked at them and go, why? You know what I mean? And the opposite can be said as well. Like movies that I couldn't really get behind and would just be like background noise if it was on TV are like, I gotta fucking watch that movie again. It was amazing when I really sat down and took it in. So, you know, I'm seeing that, and we're really coming to different perspectives on this, which is
it's funny too because like I came into this after watching it going, I am going to shit all over this movie because it does not. But I don't think I said anything bad yet. Like it's almost like what happened with Josh and fucking Sleepaway Camp. You know what I
Sleepaway,
mean?
yeah.
Like you're like, oh my god, I'm rated. Like I might end up rating this an X. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it now. Right?
Nice.
So I don't know. Like I said, it's considering what it took to make this movie and the limitations and the major obstacles and the fact that they ended up with what they did and what it spawned. I'm not going to shit on it that bad.
No. True.
I
And I
can't.
mean, we all know Ash's greatest enemy in this film, right?
Himself.
No,
Yes.
the
Ash.
bookshelves.
Yeah.
The man's constantly got bookshelves falling on.
It's true.
Yeah.
Woodworking.
Yeah. I remember playing a version of Rochambeau, Rock, Paper, Scissors with my friends in high school. It was Ash, Deadite, Bookshelf.
Shit. That's kind of funny.
Ash kills Deadite, Deadite destroys Bookshelf, Bookshelf falls on Ash and holds him incapable of doing anything.
Wow. This you learn something new every day. All right, gentlemen. Aaron.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the effects in this movie.
Oh no.
Me too.
Oh no.
Yeah. This is the whole reason why we're doing this movie, Aaron. This is why I fucking nominated it.
All
This
right.
is why we're going through all the Evil Deads just so I can hear your opinion about this first one.
No pressure.
No
Before I
pressure.
start this, I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is from 1981.
Yeah.
And yes, there were some very early effects kind of coming into volition at this point in the game. But in saying that, there's going to be some shitting on some of this stuff right now. So definitely tune in for this.
So
I'm going to
get
kind
my
of,
mind in a headspace of effects,
yeah.
what is another movie from this era that I could compare it to?
Ooh.
So I have a kind of a mindset and idea of what good effects work was at this time.
Fucking American
Friday the 13th.
Friday 13th, American
Oh, yeah.
Werewolf in London.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a good one. Now, this is
So-
totally different spectrum. From
Absolutely, but just to give you a perspective,
Yeah,
American Werewolf in London,
Absolutely.
that's the level of effects that was possible.
Absolutely
Right.
was.
Definitely put things into perspective when you're talking about cream corn and fucking chocolate syrup.
But I mean, at the same time, when you're dealing with
Massive
yeah,
Very different.
like American Werewolf in London was like the Jurassic Park of fucking
Right.
special effects back in '80,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But the reason why I brought up the original Friday the 13th is because they're just they're killing people, right? So gore effects on people are gore effects on people, right? But anyways, Aaron, I want to hear.
Yeah.
So
continue.
initially, when the hand comes out and she's scarring the drawing pad, and she's giving her, I had to pause it for a second because I wanted to see. I could see her hand, and I never noticed it before. And I'm in the same boat as you are, Tim. And like I have a new appreciation because I'm sitting back and I'm critiquing it as I'm watching it. So I actually saw that her hand had veining, and it was kind of bluish and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of pushes what happens to Ash's hand later on, right? Is that her hand gets infected, and she's drawing this thing, and then you don't see it in her other hand because her other hand is just out of frame, but it's still there and it's still flesh tone, right? So I thought that was a pretty cool little thing, and I thought that her hand looked pretty good. I even marked it down in some notes, right? When Ash finally goes to the basement to look for Scotty, one of the first shots that you see down there, and this isn't a makeup effect, but this is still an effect, that would be the pipes dripping. They've actually mixed up like some Methicil and made it look like it was really slimy, right? You can tell that they put the Methicil on the pipes and then they shot it. Let's shoot it, and it's dripping off the pipes. Really cool. Like I thought that was a really neat little effect to put in with leaking pipes. Like it's not just water dripping. It's got this goo
Gunky,
effect
slimy
to it.
water.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really neat effect that they threw in there. So I'm like, okay, this is going pretty good so far. I couldn't even make out the cover of the Necronomicon because it was so small, and they shot it like they wanted you to see what it was, but I felt like I was looking at one of those 3D art things where I'm like trying to blur my eyes, going, what? Right?
It's a sailboat.
Right? Yeah, or a giraffe or something, right? So then it cuts to the dagger, right? And I actually thought that the dagger looked really, really good in it. I thought whoever put it together, whether it was put together fast or whatever,
Sullivan.
yeah, I think the paint job on it and everything was actually really good. I thought
Actually, that was like the best prop of the whole fucking movie.
was.
It was very cool.
Yeah, it was really good.
Tom Sullivan, he never did a lot of movies. He didn't do a lot. He hasn't done a lot of movies. And I mean, he did The Fly too. I gather, but a funny little tidbit is that Bruce Campbell actually had a hand in doing some of the makeup in this. For those of you that don't know this, he actually did some of the makeup. I'm not completely sure what he did, but there was a couple other people that were involved with the effects, but Tom Sullivan was the main guy that they kind of went with. I found that when it was close up with Ash, I saw his unibrow. Usually, film that they kind of fix that kind of thing. I really thought that there was really great smoke and fog effects throughout this film. I thought it was really cool that they had a lot of they really created a really cool atmosphere with that kind of thing. The injuries that the vines do to what's her face
Cheryl.
to Cheryl, that's right. Um, I thought were really good when she got
That's
back.
because they were real.
Well, yeah.
The
So,
majority of the cuts and bruises you see in this movie is
yeah.
not effects.
Well, there you go, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, that actually looks real. So that would explain it, Josh, for sure,
Yeah.
right? The contact lenses. Now, the contact lenses, it's like they spent all the money on the contact lenses and kind of backed off on everything else because the contact lenses in this are absolutely on point. I would still use those contact lenses in any kind of horror film that was coming up today.
Yeah.
I mean, just brilliant contact lenses. The liquid latex and cotton balls on the hands and everything. Now, this is where it starts to kind of fall apart for me. Um, when you see a couple shots, um, I can't help like it's hand cotton balls, and at one point you can see the actual flesh finger coming through, and it's actually a flesh tone. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like oh, and you would think
there was one part where one of the Deadites looks up, and
Yeah,
you can see
underneath.
the line, and they had like blue lines, straight lines going down, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear Aaron talk.
I'm getting to that, but I mean,
Okay, all right.
I couldn't believe that in a lot of those makeups, Tim, they didn't continue it all the way down. Like
Yeah.
they just left the throat and neck area completely barren.
I
Right?
saw the same thing, and I likened it to on some of the horror groups that I'm on, where somebody always posts a picture. My son decided to try makeup tonight, and it's like some random shit the kid threw on, right? And it's like you can see like the skin tones through it and everything else, and it's like, good job, the kid's trying. That's almost how I felt with some of the makeup in the Evil Dead. It's like, good job, they tried.
Again, you got to remember, these actresses, it's like October, September. There's
Right.
no heat in this shitty cabin.
Yeah.
And they're just plastering them with whatever gunk they got to make them look kind of like they did 2 days ago when they filmed that scene.
And there's another thing that I want to kind of not retract, but I want to let everybody know that back in 1981, I mean, you had Polaroid cameras, so you could take a Polaroid for continuity on set. You could take a shot of somebody that you did makeup on that day, and then if you're doing the same makeup, 2 weeks down the road, you can refer to that picture that's put into that Ziploc bag with that actor's makeup in it, right?
Yeah, they didn't do that.
No, but and you can tell, right? I mean, the bruise on Ash's face.
Moves.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, like that.
and grows and shrinks.
It shrinks. It grows. I'm like,
It's like Prince John and Robin Hood Men in Tights. His mole moves around his fucking face the whole movie. I have a mole.
I think one of the biggest things in this movie that saves everything about it is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really cool. The sound effects are really cool, and it kind of pulls some of these effects out of where it would be way lower than what I would thought. The soundtrack really kind of it intrigued me because I was listening to the soundtrack, going with the effect that was going on, like the pencil in the ankle, and that saved that because what I saw was a foam leg being impaled, right, and then having the blood come out of the. Was it effective? Yeah, it was effective, and I do agree that it probably was one of the best effects that was in that film because it did look painful, right? And I did kind of cringe over it. I'm like, oh, that would hurt. Yeah, ow, 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 right? But at the same time, I could see that it was a foam piece, maybe coated with some latex and stuff, and it was getting like a nice wrinkle effect and things like that too, right? So the hand perspective from the basement, when it angles up and you can almost see what's going on in the ceiling and things like that, like at least fix the finger that's showing from the latex, right? Mostly okay, so all the special effects is mostly liquid latex and rubber cotton balls and tissue paper and things like that. There's one point where a hand gets cut off and it lands on the ground. Pretty good effect. Hand looked real. It looked like it was a pretty good cast, and they just colored it up properly, and that's what happened. So I've written down here terrible makeup on Shelley. uh, I, I, I think that's the veins that were drawn on, and the face, and the face to me in some of these makeups was like a rainbow. Like, look at all the colors that are
Yeah.
on its face, right? And of course, a lot of colors don't like to attach themselves to liquid latex and cotton. It's really hard to attach that stuff to that kind of material if you don't have an airbrush or whatever. And you can totally tell that they didn't use an airbrush because it's got brush strokes, it's got the straight lines for the veining and all that kind of stuff, right?
I'm gonna give you another tidbit on that too.
Yeah,
Tom Sullivan said in an interview that they had absolutely little to no budget for the makeup itself, like the paint. It's pure acrylic.
just acrylic paint.
It's just
And
acrylic paint. They literally like toll paints basically
Just
from a
caked
fucking
it
local
on.
dollar store or local store and just caked it on.
well, he did what he had to do to get the effect going for the
Yeah.
for the film.
Absolutely. And when
Um,
you see the effect change on Shelley in particular, I think this scene is probably what I'm thinking you're thinking of. When
yeah,
it looks so bad and different, that's because it's not the actress anymore. She was done filming. She wrapped. They needed a Shemp, so they got Sam's brother, or they got just one of the cast guys. Get in there, and we're gonna slap the same kind of makeup, and we'll put enough makeup on you that people won't tell, right? But
right.
you can tell when it's in Blu-ray, and
Oh, totally. Yeah. Cheryl makeup in the basement. I
yeah.
thought that from a distance, that looked actually pretty good for cotton and latex. Like, it was kind of creepy. When they got a little closer, you could see the lines, you could see everything, right? But
Yeah.
they colored it really well. And I think that's one of the more iconic uh, things in film that stands out is the contact lenses and the way that he did the makeup on Cheryl in the basement for sure.
But on top of that, it
Yeah,
was also the lighting
and I on that
because
thing saved it as well.
because of how like she's got that fucking door over her head. She's in shadow, so you're getting all the different like depths of the you know the bigger brow and the cheekbones and the sullen eyes. Like you're getting that depth. So I mean,
You're nice shadowing and everything too.
yeah, and I mean, I feel that, and we've talked about this before, on Silver Bullet or whatever. Like lighting saves effects, right?
Right. Right, and that's why everybody's got to work kind of close together to say, listen, you got to shoot that a little further because this is, I can see a line. We can fix it for you, but it depends on the budget. Do you want us to fix that for you or whatever, right? Like, it all depends on budgets too, right? Like, obviously they couldn't afford hot foam or obviously there's no silicone back then, but hot foams and things like that. Ultimately, if you want to stay with the continuity, you're going to run the same hot foam prosthetic piece all along and color it the exact same way depending on what kind of damage is happening throughout the film, right? And that prosthetic piece, that's why we do it that way, is because we're running the exact same prosthetic piece every day, and we have multiple pieces lined up so that we can keep that continuity going the way that it's supposed to go, right? The vein work I have written down is absolutely horrific. Oh my gosh, I cringed every time I saw a vein that was really straight and things like that. And granted, it's like I said before, it's really hard to do makeup or acrylic paint over top of liquid latex dried and to get it into all the little crevices and everything. It is a terrible chore, and it would have taken a long time to do that, right? Have written down bad bruising on Ash's face. I mean, yeah, that kept all over the place, right? Love the spider vein effect on Linda's foot. So,
the fucking stop motion of how they.
Yeah, I thought that was really effective, and I think they carry that kind of effect, the close up with the eyes and that kind of effect that's on her ankle. They really, really took advantage of that in number 2. Right,
Yeah.
I loved that effect, and I thought that was really potent when I saw it and it started growing and everything. I'm like, yes, nailed that, right?
I love that effect. When they did it, it wasn't even stop motion in traditional sense. They literally took the film cells and drew the lines on the film cells. So then when they blew it up,
You know what? That makes total sense because it doesn't look like a generic. It doesn't look like something that's on the foot actually. And I was looking at it and I paused it and I'm like, what? I don't know how they did this, to be quite honest, right? So that fills that in, right? I also wrote that Linda's makeup suits the scene. So sitting on the floor when she's laughing and doing that thing, and she's got like more of a clown kind of look to
Yeah.
her face. I was like, that actually suits that scene, so I can't shit on that, right? It looks creepy, and it's really strange. I just kind of sat back and the compound wrist fracture. It looked okay from a distance on what's his face's what is it, Scott? Scotty, you can see him sitting there, and you can see his compound fracture. They don't really view in on it, but it's kind of a side look. It looked painful. I'm not gonna. His face again looked. I just kind of cringed when I saw it. When they're doing so, if they're doing like a cut effect, or they're doing a bloody effect, they did it absolutely spot on. They're hacking somebody, they're cutting at the perfect time, and then they're coming back to the scene as the blades, or as something is impaled and blood is coming out of it. I think they did a really good job, and this is why Sam is going the way he's going and has, been constantly going for years, is because he's got a really good eye for cutting and bringing it back in, right? So you can elaborate on those effects. I really like how they did the illusion effects with that kind of thing throughout the film, and that's another reason why this is a cult classic, I believe, anyway. Great cut effects. Teeth on the possessed, they are way too clean. They should have been at least had like some fake blood in their mouth, so it reddened everything up. So, but there was bright white teeth with the normal pink mouth when they're supposed to be dead, that kind of thing. At least like tint something or put some black dye in their mouth. Yeah, really, really. I was like, well, that person looks like they're still alive, right? The burying scene with Ash, bruised around his eye, kept moving, and it was a bright pink. I kept going back to that because I'm like, oh my gosh. The severed head at the burial site when he's burying Linda. I love how they cut, and what they did was they buried her, and her head was supposed to be sitting on the top of the dirt after he cuts it off, which wasn't too bad of an effect. And they cut to it. She's like, and the head's still moving around. Thought that was pretty cool illusion. A lot of those scenes with blood, I found that the blood was pink, had a little bit of a pink hue to it. They should have put a little more orange, a little more, blue in there just to kind of darken it up a bit.
It was very Dawn of the Deadish.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Squirting blood effects throughout the whole film, I thought were absolutely fantastic. Those were on par. Ash's torn up leg. So you see his leg getting torn up, and then he starts walking down back into the basement, and they really kind of show it really well. It's all wet, and it looks painful. And to be quite honest, I thought that was one of the better effects in the whole film, because it really, to me, it felt like his leg was really torn up. Let's see, the bursting blood pipe. I thought that was cool.
That was fun.
And the claymation at the end, I thought they did a really good job with all the claymation to kind of, give you the feel for what, the big ending and things. I thought it was actually a pretty good little add-on, and it almost felt like the claymation was an afterthought. Like they were like, well, why don't we try claymation for this part?
It was. So Tom Sullivan sold Sam Raimi on it. Sam Raimi's original plan was for the Deadites to just deflate, kind of like a balloon, and a puff of smoke come out. And Tom said to him, he's like, all that needs to happen is in a theater, someone go during that scene, and it's going to ruin your whole film. So they allowed him to do the claymation, which, again, I love, but it doesn't fit in the film at all.
No, and
it went on way too
long. That was my biggest issue with it. It was like, are they just trying to fill fucking time here? Like, it just, all of a sudden, like, it's quiet-isk. You know what I mean? And like he's just standing there and the creaking, and then all of a sudden fucking more shit happens, and it's
right.
And then cream corn.
So it's the cream corn / oatmeal effect coming out of the sleeve of the guy at the end. I was like, oh my gosh, that's definitely oatmeal or cream corn or something like that. I mean, yeah, if they tinted it a little bit differently, like maybe like they had, I don't know. I don't know if they tinted it a little bit, put a little bit of red into it or something, made it ooze out, and then maybe they kept it that color because of ratings or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, that's basically my take on the whole thing. I love the film. I'll continue to love it forever, and I believe it's a starting point for a lot of other horror movies that came up as well. Right? Granted that American Werewolf they had the shit going on back then, and in comparison, you have no budget. But look at what happened. This is like the creme de la creme, corn.
I think the reason why I love the effects in this film so much is because as a young guy growing up loving horror, I looked at these effects and said, I could realistically do this. Like, there's nothing here that's werewolf material that I just don't have the skill for. I can open up a can of cream corn and slap it in someone's mouth and tell them spit it out at me.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, sorry it took so long, but that movie, I'm telling you, that movie has a lot of
absolutely.
I was gonna say cheesy effects, but it's got a lot of effects in it.
It does.
Right. Oh.
Okay.
I'm glad it's a cult classic. I love it.
Hey guys, I'm Felissa Rose, Angela from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to They Cast from the Coast. Yeah!
'Tis a cult classic. Lots of effects in that movie. But Josh, we really, really want to hear your notes on this.
Of course.
Feels like Adam's just going through the motions right now.
I almost am, but I just want to hear what everybody has
Josh,
to say.
do your notes, whatever.
Because Josh is just gonna be like, best fucking movie ever. Notes over.
Not even. So I did watch it on my original VHS that I got for Christmas. So it was as grainy as all could be, so my squinty little eyes didn't get to see all these imperfections that Aaron notices.
An original VHS, like an original first run VHS?
Yeah,
no,
no. This is just the one that I got for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
When I was
the
like
first
13,
one you got.
whatever.
Okay.
Right. So this
Does
is
it
my
still have
copy.
the Blockbuster sticker on?
What's that?
Does it still
No,
have
this one didn't come from Blockbuster. She probably got the flea market, honestly.
EBV.
Yeah. All right, my notes. Where are we at here?
My 1,000,000th time watching this movie.
The Evil Dead. Okay, this is my 176th viewing of The Evil Dead. Took place May 17th, 2020 at 8:53 p.m. So first note was we're introduced to the Rami cam, which will go on to be a staple in his films. My next note here was, shut the fuck up, Shelley. This was just to remind me of that beautiful kind of correlation with the Evil Dead the musical. So there's a lot of outside source material that I already have in my brain, having read all the comics, having seen all the shows and all this outside lore, played the video games that I kind of have in my mind. And as much as I try to detach it, it's already there. So when I hear Shelley talk, all I can hear is Scotty telling her to shut the fuck up. And when I hear Cheryl talk, all I can hear is Scotty calling her a dumb bitch. We got the first instance of the Oldsmobile being possessed, which I realized. When the wheel jerks out of his hand, I don't think that's an issue with his car. I think that's some Kandarian demons monkeying around in there.
Boy.
Sam is the waving hitchhiker, Sam and Rob.
I wasn't
when
waving
they
at you.
I ain't waving at you, asshole!
The iconic swing. The swing that hits into this front door. So they definitely aren't renting this place at all. Let's just get that out there clear.
Okay,
Scotty's pretty...
Do not. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna fucking say some trivia. I was like...
No.
Don't fucking
I'm just
drink
saying,
that Kool-Aid, bud.
They definitely aren't renting this place, right? Like Scotty says that he got it on the cheap. I think he just knows the cabin's there and he's hanging out. I don't think they're actually renting this place.
No.
The shed was very inspired by Texas Chainsaw. So you get in there, you got all the gourds floating and the weird animal parts. Definitely Chainsaw inspired. You reckon this might be enough to get the fuck out? Your hand begins to draw something pretty evil looking, and your hand is possessed. That's probably the first sign that I'm just gonna call this little.
Isn't there
we can't
voices
get away.
too talking at the same
Yeah.
time?
Like whispering to her, and she's just cool with this. Continue drawing her little clock picture. Nis Nis Tutu Tarin. Party down.
Party down.
Like that needs to be on my tombstone. It really does. Ash is really a fucking nerd in this movie. Sam was so ahead of his time with some of these POV shots. Just look at the shot coming out from the cellar. Just an animal. And then I wrote ... What a dumb bitch.
Nice.
Quick, give me the dimmest lantern on the planet so I can go into the cellar. Did anybody else notice how dim this shitty lantern was?
Yes.
Pretty shitty lantern.
I wrote it down.
And cut to Rob Tappert's grandma's basement, because this fucking Evil Dead cabin didn't actually have a cellar, so all those scenes are filmed in his grandma's basement.
Nice.
The book, damn it is ugly. Sorry, Tom. Not your best work. And then I just wrote, The Dagger, thumbs up. Lightning effects, hand drawn on. So when the lightning crashes down, it's the same effect they used for the spider web, where they actually drew it onto the cells. Ancient Sumerian burial ground practices, and probably Sumerian rats as well. Which just confirms that I'm pretty sure that movie fits into the Evil Dead timeline somehow. Branches through the window. One shot. That was a real branch going through real glass. That was it. There was no time for reshoots. Damn, Linda. Them corduroy pants, though. What an ugly lost plot device. I mean, necklace. Could you imagine giving that to your girlfriend? What an ugly
I'm
piece of
surprised
shit.
you didn't fucking give it to Allison.
I wrote, Scotty's gonna get it. It's so funny to hear how Sam convinces Shelley to go topless, and she agrees because no one will ever see this movie, and then proceeds to have her topless self printed on millions and millions of DVDs and VHS and Blu-rays. The infamous tree rape, without a doubt one of the most iconic scenes in horror that made this film a video nasty. For the record, victim blaming is wrong, and no one deserves to be raped. However, Cheryl, what the fuck were you thinking going into the forest? The best physical effects are just real life. The cuts and bruises in this film are mostly real. The first time I saw this movie was on Christmas morning. That has to totally be a sin. I'm probably going to hell. The Foley work and camera work could be ripped apart in any other context, but for some reason it just works in this film. There's some really weird sound effects. There's some really weird camera stuff that Sam does that's very artistic and artsy-fartsy. Why the fuck did Ash take his sister on this, weekend romp getaway? Do you think Ash's dad was like, take your sister?
But Dad,
That's a good point.
I don't know.
I know it's not to a start. Then it starts. Oh, I know it's not going to start the car. And then it starts. I said there's few things on this planet more satisfying than the look Ash gives her. When a woman tells you something's not going to work, and then it works. Ooh, that feel. Headlights in the background background are definitely not headlights. They're held way too far apart. I'm pretty sure that's just a couple people with flashlights. Foreshadowing of the axe. So it shows the axe and it shows them picking it up. It's like, yeah, that's going to be a weapon later on. Bodily dismemberment is the only way to kill a deadite. The establishment of the rules. She's floating, guys. Like, when do you call it a night? She's literally floating. I wrote oof, the pencil. Excellent Foley work on the apple. First shelf to fall on Ash. Everything is going to be alright. Quote, Scotty. Scotty doesn't know.
Fuck. Nice reference. Nice reference. Now I got the song in my fucking head.
Foreshadow of the fire poker. So it shows him grab the fire poker, kind of prod the fire a little bit. It's like, yeah, that's going to be a weapon later on. Why is this cabin so ugly yellow? So many of the rooms in this cabin are disgusting mustard yellow color. Excellent Hitchcock reference with the shower curtain. So we're referencing the greats here. Nails on the face was pretty weak. That effect of the nails running over the face was pretty weak. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Face on the fire, however, was pretty legit. When he shoves her face in the fire and it's like melting away, that was pretty gross. Second shelf to fall on Ash. Bites her own hand off. Everyone still thinks everything is okay. At what point are we going to call it a night here? Canned milk shooting out. Excellent. Man Ash is far from the Hefe he becomes later on.
Hefe.
Red filter. Shelley's dead. I like how they immediately just try to bury her and cover up the fact that they committed murder. Like, Ash and Scotty are so on board, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to pretend like this never happened, man. Shelley, you picked her up at a bar, you've only known her for 2 days, who cares? I'm such a Scotty. I would definitely be getting the fuck out of here as well. Linda is definitely the creepiest deadite, in my opinion. Do you think if they chopped Linda's foot off, she would have survived? Like how they chopped Ash's hand off? Because that's where the deadite infection kind of arose from the foot. Do you think she could have been walking around with like a chainsaw foot? Like the lady on Grindhouse? With the machine gun leg?
Yeah, machine gun leg, yeah.
Here's some deep thoughts. Do you reckon Scotty was tree raped? Because he comes back, and he says the trees were alive, and then he pulls a branch out of his stomach.
I never thought of that until right now.
He was sodomized by the trees.
I think so.
The wood played with his wood.
Fuck's
Yeah, I think he was, yeah. I just wrote the backhand.
The backhand. The infamous backhand.
The first deadite fake out ever to be recorded in Evil Dead history. The grossest fishhook I think I've ever seen. That disgusting finger going into the mouth. Oh. The third shelf has fallen on Ash. Ash has lost it. He's feeding drinks to a corpse. What a weird way to hold the dagger. I always thought that was so weird when she like goes in the back and weird.
And she turns it that way on purpose. It's like,
yeah. More milk. I'm pretty sure this milk and cream they're using is literally just left over from the craft table when they had coffee.
Craft service.
Yeah. The saw. We finally get to see the saw. And then I just wrote poor Ash. At this point, I just felt bad for Ash. Back to the eye game from when Ash had the pendant. So when they're like looking back and forth, and it's kind of like a foreshadow to the little game they played. Favorite shot in the film when the camera is being buried. So when that camera's up and the dirt falls just in the perfect spot to show Ash.
How many times do you think they did that?
Once, because that was a complete accident, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. Jeepers.
Now that's how you do a nails scene. So the nails on the leg, similar to Aaron, I thought that was one of the better effects in the film for sure. Foam beam, but it weighed like 10 pounds and it's clocking her in the chin. Pretty funny. Neck hole squirt, excellent. We're back to Rob Tappert's grandma's basement. Blood filling out the outlets, pipes, and light bulbs. Much better than semen coming out of the outlet.
Thank you, but yes.
Welcome. Weird POV shot from upside down, flipped around.
Yeah.
Really artsy fartsy. Creates a sense of unease, for sure. Water mirror, so simple but very effective.
That was a good scene.
It was.
Yeah. Ash is probably thinking, I wonder if S-Mart's jewelry department will take a return. I love how the holes at this point are just painted onto the door. When you talk about inconsistencies, there's nothing more inconsistent than The Evil Dead. Because they film out of sequence, and they're looking at points where they're like, I don't know what he looked like, just throw a bucket of blood on him. And then someone's like, but there's holes in the door. And Sam's like, well, go fucking paint them on.
I never noticed that.
Thumb eyes before Game of Thrones did it.
Nice.
So the thumb eyes when it's squishing and the pus comes
Great.
out.
I can hear the viper squealing now. Thanks.
Yep. Tom's amazing claymation, although it does go on a little long. My all-time favorite of creamed corn and oatmeal. Definitely not a happy ending, and perfect music to end this movie.
Yep.
Good music to end.
Those are my notes of my favorite film.
Your absolute favorite film.
I can say without a doubt, The Evil Dead has a stronger place in my heart than any other film, maybe even the Star Wars series. Just because growing up, I loved horror, and this was the one that got away. So when I finally got to see it, it was like, I don't even know how to describe it, honestly.
Perfection.
I guess.
First time you had sex?
Probably better.
I agree with you. I think.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, fine. Good notes. Tim, do you have some trivia for us?
Tim,
I want a little bit more. No, you're not going through the motions with me, okay? That shit might fly with Aaron and Josh, but I want a proper fucking introduction.
All right. Let me do this again.
Okay?
Hey, Josh, man, those were some great notes, but you know what? It's time to get down with some fucking trivia time. Trivia time with Tim.
I apologize in advance if I didn't leave you much.
No, not at all. You actually skirted around a lot of the shit. But the thing is that I'm just more or less saying facts about the movie, right? Like you're coming at it with there's emotion behind it, right?
Because I feel like I know these people, as weird as that is. I've listened to their commentary tracks and documentaries and interviews so much that like I know the stories. I feel like I was there.
That's cool. I like that.
Okay. So there's a lot of trivia for this movie.
You're right.
A lot of trivia. So I'll try to pick out some of the best ones. At the end of Principal's shooting in Tennessee, the crew put together a little time capsule package and buried it inside the fireplace of the cabin as a memento of the production to whoever found it. The cabin has since been destroyed and the fireplace is still intact. Did anybody find that time capsule?
Probably. The site's been pretty pillaged over, but that is a recent picture of the fireplace that still exists.
Wow. I thought this one was funny. The original script called for all the characters to be smoking weed when they're first listening to the tape. The actors decided to say, fuck it, and let's do it for real. The entire scene was later reshot due to their uncontrollable behavior.
Because the scene, the footage they had is such garbage, they said. They said it was so bad they couldn't even use any of it.
That's funny. That's funny. The blood is a combination of Cairo syrup, non-dairy creamer, and red food coloring. At one point, Bruce Campbell's shirt that he wears in the film was so saturated with fake blood that after dyeing it by the fire, the shirt became solidified and broke when he tried to put it on.
It's amazing.
At the end of a normal day of shooting, Bruce Campbell would return home back in his pickup truck in the back of a pickup truck because he was covered from head to toe with fake blood.
Yeah, Sam
You
wouldn't
ain't-
let him drive in the Oldsmobile.
Yeah, you're not getting in my car.
You imagine that, eh? The star getting the back.
Yeah.
The cabin was located in the forest outside a small town in Morristown, Tennessee. Bruce Campbell's biography says that it was later burned down, but no one knows for sure what happened. Sam Raimi says that he burnt it down himself after filming. Additionally, no one will give out the complete directions to the cabin because it's the only remaining part of the structure is a brick chimney, and too many people have already come and vandalized the property.
Yeah. So there are a select few people that do know where it is.
Obviously. Sam Raimi originally wanted to title the film Book of the Dead, but producer Irvin Shapiro changed the title to The Evil Dead for the fear that kids would be turned off seeing a movie with a literary reference. That's okay.
Books are lame.
Books are evil.
The cabin used in the film's set was also lodging for the 13 crew members, with several people sleeping in the same room. Living conditions were so terrible the crew frequently argued. The cabin didn't have plumbing, so the actors went days without showering and fell ill frequently in the freezing weather. By the end of production, they were burning furniture to stay warm.
Could you
Bruce
imagine?
Campbell
Could you imagine the fucking Screen Actors Guild hearing about this?
Oh man! Oh,
Bruce Campbell put up his family's property in northern Michigan as collateral, so Sam Raimi not only could finish the film, but could also blow it up to 35 mil film, which was required for theatrical release. Raimi was so grateful for his financial contribution that he credited him as co-producer. That's nice. That's what friends do, Adam. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Andy Granger, a friend of Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, gave them the advice, fellas, no matter what you do, keep the blood running down the screen. They included the scene in the finished film where the blood runs down the projector screen as a tribute to him. Bruce Campbell twisted his ankle on a route while running down a steep hill. Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert decided to tease him by poking the injury with sticks, thus causing Campbell to have an obvious limp in some scenes.
Friends.
This was filmed in a real-life abandoned cabin.
Yep.
Real life abandoned. The eerie wind noise in the movie was recorded by Sam Raimi. He first heard it through his bedroom window when he was trying to sleep and thought it would be perfect for the movie. There wasn't any filming. When there wasn't any filming, Bruce Campbell would actually help out with the crew, prepping shots and props around the set. Maybe that's why he was standing next to the bridge.
Probably.
Cameraman slipped during filming, smashing the camera into Bruce's face, knocking out several of the actor's teeth.
Ow.
After Scott says, "Don't you see, Ash? They're alive," he screams higher than normal, his normal voice register. This was actually Sam Raimi's voice messed with Scott's scream. I don't know why, but it's kind of funny. After completing principal photography in the winter of 79-80, most of the actors left production. However, there was still much of the film to be completed. Most of the second half of the film features Bruce Campbell and various stand-ins or fake shemps to replace the actors who left. The opening sequence of Evil moving over the pond was achieved by having Bruce Campbell push Sam Raimi in a dinghy while he shot the film.
They really tortured Bruce in this fucking film. They really did.
This goes back to something Aaron said earlier, and I was thinking I was going to bring it up, but you were on such a rant about these particular things that I didn't bother to say. The white contact lenses were so painful to wear. They covered half the eye to be taken out every 15 minutes to allow to breathe. And they were the old school ones, so that means that they were made out of like that almost glass.
Glass. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But that's
And you
probably
couldn't
why
see
they
anything.
look so good, because they were painted on glass.
Well, you could tell that they, like, if you pause the screen, you can tell they almost stick out like a further than the sclera part of your eye. It's like, wow. So those had to be painful. You're right.
Yep.
Uh,
There's a good story with those. Well, Tim's looking for another one. I think it was Shelley, who was, when she was hacked up and her head was above like the cabin where her head was, and they had like the arms outside. There was people underneath, obviously, and she was under there with her head sticking up through the ground, freezing cold. And they were filming at like 2:00 in the morning, and I guess Sam just had her keep rolling, and Sam and Bruce fell asleep, and she was just keep squirming around doing her thing, not even realizing they had fell asleep at the camera.
wow. I love the far away shot when it's like obviously just a fake mannequin head.
Yeah.
Okay, the tape recorder found in the cabin actually belonged to Bruce Campbell's father. When Cheryl returns to the cabin right after the tree rape scene and complains about wanting to go home, Scott goes to say something and then suddenly stops, throws back his head, and steps out of the shot. This was due to the actor blowing his line. That's funny. This film was shown to Stephen King, and it was his glowing endorsement, which the film later used for ads and posters of the film, which really sold it to the public. The film was bought by New Line Cinema soon after. Most of the demon POVs that glide across the ground were shot by mounting a camera to a 2x4 while Sam and Bruce ran along on either side. Holy shit, that is so stupid simple.
Yeah, it's the Raimi cam.
Is it ever?
So we can do fucking Raimi cams.
Yep.
Wow.
That's crazy.
As we stated earlier, this was Sam and Bruce's feature debut. And let me find one more. Okay, so Sam Raimi turned 20 just before shooting began. He considered this project his rite of passage. And
20. Wow.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys accomplish when you were 20? I sure know I didn't fucking accomplish the Evil Dead.
No.
I got married.
You got married at 20?
Yep.
Wow.
He's from Windsor.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's true. Trying to find German translation of this movie is Dance of the Devils.
Oh no, Italian's La Casa.
La Casa.
9.
Okay, I'll end it with this one. Over the years, the director, Sam Raimi's 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88, originally bought by Raimi's father for the family when Sam was 14, has played Ash's car in all the Evil Dead movies, Uncle Ben and Aunt May's car in Spider-Man movies, Annie's car in The Gift, and Mrs. How do you say her name? Ganache? Yeah. Car in Drag Me to Hell, and has made cameos in nearly all his other movies.
Sure has.
It's iconic.
You know why, right?
Because he lost his virginity in that car.
You're fucking right, he did.
It's his good luck
Brilliant.
shot. Actually, this is going to be the last one. Made with the budget of $350,000 to about $400,000. The Evil Dead made $2.6 million to date, maybe more. Trivia time.
Nice. Lots of fucking trivia for this movie, and it goes even deeper when you get into the into the whole making of documentaries that are out there. The shit that they tell you about what they went through making this movie is absolutely incredible. So, with that, gentlemen, it's time to get your final thoughts together. because we're going to.
Adam, you go first because you haven't talked for a
Oh
while.
fuck! You really want me to go first?
I do
You
ask
haven't-
that everyone keep in mind the 10 rules of horror before you rate this film.
Yeah.
So
Your
remember to
rules
keep
don't
it
apply.
simple, no more than 6 characters named, keep locations minimal, tell us the rules, and more importantly, follow them. If you're going to have a twist, foreshadow it, makes it better for multiple viewings. Use practical effects whenever possible.
Amen.
Give us some cheese, one-liners, and silly situations. Humor in general. Sex appeal. Give us some hotties. Pay homage to the greats. And never have a happy ending.
I
Always leave
feel like
room
you just
for
made these fucking rules up to go and
Not true.
coincide with the.
Well,
Not
here's
true.
here's the thing.
Not
I'm gonna
true. I
blow
do.
one of your rules out of the fucking water right off the bat, Josh. You said
Okay.
earlier, the way to kill a deadite
Yeah.
is how.
bodily
That's
dismemberment.
not how they finished the fucking movie, by the way. They did not kill the deadites with bodily dismemberment. They killed them after the book burned up and they fucking basically disintegrated. So it blows when I run fucking things out. You're not allowed to give this an X, you bastard. All right, fine. I'll give my fucking review here. So I went back into this movie and I decided not to, I decided to take off the rose-colored glasses. I wanted to see this movie from an utmost, respectable position of taking it all in as I possibly could. Kind of like seeing it again for the first time, as you would say. The movie definitely has its shortcomings. The effects are subpar in a lot of ways. The acting is laughable in a lot of ways. It is literally a stepping stone movie in a greater career. There's no other way to put it. When you look at it and you see Within the Woods, you really see, a school project movie. And then you see this and it's like they gave him some money, so let's see what he can do. But it doesn't really show the potential of what was to come later. And the unfortunate thing with this movie is that it doesn't, in my opinion at least, it doesn't truly portray the Evil Dead as a lot of people know it and love it. Because the vast majority of people who will, when you say the Evil Dead, they think of Ash from the second movie.
Yeah.
They think of, the go crazy scene in the second with the fucking deer head. They think of the portal and the tree and everything having to do with Evil Dead 2. The vast majority of people that you talk to about Evil Dead forget about the nuances of the first movie almost entirely. And the fact that it's a different feeling of a movie. This movie was serious. It had some jauntiness to it and some fucking, like you said, like some flamboyant weirdness to it and everything else. But the movie was meant to be a tone. I mean, let's face it, it became a fucking video nasty. It was meant to take people in an incredibly dark direction for everything that they did with this movie, no matter how silly it looked in some cases. That being said, it succeeded in one big thing that we can always give it extreme credit for, and that is to inspire and to incite a future of horror movie lovers, horror movie fans, and horror movie directors to go on and make some of the greatest horror movies ever, and literally citing this movie as something that inspired them. So we can't take that away from this movie. If I was to literally talk about this movie on technical merits, it would not be a very high gradable movie in my opinion. And like, I don't follow the same rules as Josh does, and I just shit on one of his rules on purpose because I realized what was going on. I took the shot.
But just to correct you, it does follow the rule, because Ash clearly states everything will be all right at sunlight when we can leave. Everything will be all right. And it's not the burning book that kills the Deadites, it's the sunlight, as we established in Evil Dead 2, when the sunlight draws out Evil Ash. Just for point of reference. But continue.
Yes, but going accordingly, watching this movie and the other ones don't exist yet.
Right.
True.
So the rule established is Ash says, in the morning everything will be all right. And the rule fulfilled is, in the morning everything is all
But
right.
technically it's not, because when the sun comes up at the end, he fucking dies at the end of this movie is really what it is too. So the Deadite, that is the twist, is that it's not all right. Um, I do like this movie. I don't get me wrong. I do like this movie. However, I really have to sit on the side of the fact that this is far from a perfect movie. It's what it gave us that I enjoy more. It's what it gave us that I appreciate the most. I have to tell you, this movie barely gets an R rating for me. And what I mean barely, I mean I was literally sitting there watching this movie going, this is, in my opinion, if this was anything but the actual Evil Dead that Sam Raimi put out, if this movie had the name Book of the Dead on it, and Sam Raimi, we didn't know who the hell he was, and there was no Evil Dead 2 or anything else, this would be a PG at best. It's what it gave us. It's the careers and the movies and the property that follows that makes this movie sit above where it would have been otherwise. So with that, I do give it an R, but I gotta admit, it's barely. It's barely. Thank you. That's me. That's me. Thank you for listening to me, folks. And
This has been my
this
TED
has
Talk.
been They Cast from the Coast. I don't care about anybody else's fucking opinion tonight. So, all right. So I've talked enough. I want to hear Aaron.
Ooh, okay. Where am I going to start here?
From the beginning.
Yeah, this film to me, I think this was probably it was probably the fourth horror film that I got to endure back in the day. And this is coming from those people that know that Stephen King's Silver Bullet scared the shit right out of me back in the day, right? So I was kind of building myself up where I went from that to, whatever I watched next, to The Exorcist, to The Evil Dead. What I do have to say about this film is that it scared me initially when I watched it back in the day. It was something that I didn't want to watch the sequel because I was kind of freaked out by it. I didn't. It had a good scare factor to it, and then when Evil Dead 2 came out, everybody's like, you got to watch it. It's great. It's got some humor in it. I'm like, you guys are just trying to line me up. But in saying this movie has got so many firsts in it. It's got so many creative parts and pieces that Sam Raimi brought out, and probably the whole crew thought things up as they were going along. And for that, I think that is so cool how a film comes together to be this major cult classic. For instance, we talked about the wind, and Sam Raimi hearing this wind come through his bedroom or whatever, and he decided to get that. That is iconic wind. Like, whenever I hear something like that, I'm like, that is Evil Dead through and through. It doesn't even take me a split second to think about that. The Raimi cam, I'd never seen a camera angle like that ever in my whole life. Right? I was like, this is like a POV. This is the best POV thing I've ever seen for a film. Yeah. Right? Like, where did he come up with this? The soundtrack. Again, we got sound effects. We have the soundtrack going on. It gives me goosebumps throughout the whole thing. I thought that the soundtrack and all of this stuff that I'm mentioning here right now makes up for a few of the flaws with the makeup. That's what I'm trying to get to here, right? The setting, the lighting saved so much of this film. We talked about it earlier with the basement shots and things like that. But the lighting in this film is actually really good. And they managed to, capitalize on trying to make the best look for the effects when the SP effects weren't the greatest at the time. All right. So this is why I'm basing my whole opinion on this and following Josh's, horror rules, tropes.
They are just my rules. You don't have to follow them.
I know. But this was an iconic movie that really, to me, when somebody says let's sit down and watch Evil Dead, I'm like, yep. Let's sit down and watch the whole trilogy. Yep. Like, it takes no second. It doesn't even take a split second for me to say, yeah, let's do it. I've sat so many people down to watch this film and to watch the other two, you know, um, and they come out of it going, "Holy crap! How come I've never seen these things before? Like, what the hell? I thought this was something totally different than what this is." Right? So things need to start somewhere, and I believe that Raimi started. Obviously, he started with this vision that he had, and he stuck true and sure to what he knew. He never took anything from anybody else or tried to be as original as possible. And I think from him birthing these camera angles and everything else in this film, I can't help it. I got to give it an X.
Oh, Darren gives it an X.
It was one of the pinnacle movies. Like I said before, it was one of the pinnacle movies that got me into what I'm doing, and and I can't give it anything less than that because I wouldn't be sitting here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for me sitting down and watching this film initially.
And like I said before, it almost just gives you an idea of a young filmmaker, effects artist, whatever. You watch this movie and you say, man, Sam Raimi did this when he was 20 years old. And this effects really isn't anything that I couldn't do myself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? If this movie didn't go the way that this movie went, then we'd all be sitting here going, we wish we had a couple sequels to this. But it didn't. People saw the potential in it, and that's why I got a second and third rating, or a second and third, film. And that's the way that I feel, and I'm happy that that these films, additional films, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness came out because I totally enjoyed all of them.
Yeah. I can't wait now because now I feel like Josh is going to give this movie a fucking G or something because everybody else is saying something, different. So, but
that's my opinion. Like I said, I'm not basing it on effects. I'm not basing it on special effects. I'm basing it on everything else that pulled it all together, all right. And I could sit down and watch this movie over and over again. And I critique things, but at the end of the day, it's the enjoyment that I get out of watching it and seeing how a non-guild film was put together. I love that. I fucking love that. Right. So
X.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to save Josh for last. I want Josh to go next.
Okay.
What the fuck?
Saving.
It only made sense for Josh to go last, but whatever.
I was going to save the best for last, Tim.
No, you can't.
Oh, yeah,
no,
here we go.
No.
As I've already said, ultimately, my glasses are the rosiest when I watch this film. This has so much of my childhood, my introduction to horror, the fact that it was the one that was just beyond reach that I couldn't get. I have an almost encyclopedic knowledge of this film and series. I love it to a great deal, more than I could say, to the fact where I own probably close to 100 copies of the fucking thing. Like, I can't say enough good things about this bad movie. And if that makes any sense to anyone,
Totally.
the movie is not perfect by any means. The effects are so bad that 14-year-old me said, I could fucking do this. And that's part of the charm, I think, of the movie. And that's not even getting into the fact of the legacy this thing created. I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours, pages and pages and pages of content. And that's not even talking about, like, the fans. This series has some serious fucking hardcore fans. Like, the replica production, down to looking at the grates on a chainsaw and saying this doesn't have enough grooves on this one wedge. You need a horizontal groove, and it's light and day difference between that and another guy's interpretation of the design. Like, I've never heard tell of a horror franchise creating that kind of level of detail. It's stuff you only see in Star Wars comparatively when you're talking about, like, the 501st costuming. The level of detail that people zoom into on this in this series for something that was a throwaway project when they made it. you look at Within the Woods, and it's painful to watch because it's so grainy and just poor quality and poor acting because they're all like 17 or whatever. But you can see how that developed and turned into The Evil Dead, and you can see how that turned into The Evil Dead 2, which I think is ultimately the project that Sam Raimi envisioned and wanted to do. This was his stepping stone to get there, and this movie, in my eyes, earns an X and nothing less than an X. It sits on the highest shelf of my high shelf of films, and it's not because it's the greatest, because it's not. I'll even go as far as to say that other films that are iconic and cult classics, like The Lost Boys, could be considered better than this film. But it has a special place in my heart, and it always will, and it sits on the highest shelf that I have to give it.
Well put. Well put. Tim.
I don't want to fucking rate it now. Don't want to rate it now. From a plot standpoint, end it with fucking Josh's
Plot twist! M. Night Shyamalan! What a twist!
No, didn't want to go last. Didn't want to go last.
I think Tim is undecided in his vote, and now he feels obligated after the beautiful speech that I gave to either roast it or praise it.
Okay, so I didn't want to go last because everybody said everything that I was going to say. And I don't want to sound like Adam during every one of these reviews. Well, I'm going to share the same sentiments. Because,
oh, man.
But to be fair, I mean, okay, you got this group of people making a movie with next to no money, a plot line that no one in 1980 when they made it would have fucking understood. The movie should have failed, and it didn't. This, and I think I used this analogy before when I was talking to Adam. This is the horror version of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi and George Lucas are very similar. They made a movie, a passion project, and it far surpassed anybody's. You look at Evil Dead, which is the best out of all three, I think, and it's very like Empire and fucking Army of Darkness, Return. Like it's the horror version of Star Wars. And I obviously appreciate that. Sitting down and watching this movie very objectively as the film that it is in 2020, special effects are horrible, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. Like everybody else said, it was a stepping stone for what would come, and usually out of lack of materials comes moments of fucking genius. And some of the things that they were able to accomplish with basically dirt and sticks and fucking canned goods was pretty good. The acting was cheesy at best. The fact that they were able to shoot in a real abandoned cabin, I guess, really lent to the fact that, this is a creepy fucking cabin in real life. Like, it wasn't set dressing. Yeah, I'm trying to think what to say that hasn't already been said. Because, again, I'm last and didn't want to be last. This was the movie that kind of started it all, and you got to kind of give it its respect for that. There was a lot of things that weren't done in film before Raimi did this. He basically made Bruce Campbell a star. He got a fucking career. Fucking Raimi got a career. His brother got a career. Like, all these people fucking got careers spawned out of this shitty college-made movie in the woods about a book. I give it an R. I didn't want to when I first sat down And after I first watched it, I really wanted to shit on this movie and be a horror snob, but I can't because being a horror snob is actually what kind of makes this movie better for me because I am critiquing it to a higher level and, you know, all the stuff that fucking came out of it. Yeah, I give it an R.
Wow. Nice. I mean, I thought I was going to be the only one to give it an R, so, I
Well,
feel okay now.
Ultimately, you gave it a PG.
No, I gave it an R.
Well, I was thinking about giving it a PG, but then I was like, no, because if this movie didn't happen, like you got to give this movie credit.
Yeah.
Like as shitty as it is in parts, and very amateur and very homemade. Like this movie could be made better by like YouTubers. You know what I mean? Now,
Absolutely.
right? But the fact that he was in a position where he was in 79, 80 when he was making this, and like fucking Bruce Campbell puts fucking property up as collateral to get it made, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a wonder that this movie is what it is and spawned what it did, but it did. And yeah.
Without this movie, Ash would have never saved Obama. He would have never fought Dead-Eye Gene Simmons. He would have never teamed up with Xena Warrior Princess.
It's got a lot of heart in it.
Yeah. All right, Josh, that's enough out of you. For another fucking day, you can talk more about the Evil Dead universe as we progress along with the reviews that we will be doing in the future. So yes, tune in next time for sure. We're going to be doing an entire month, by the way, guys. The month of June, in honor of Bruce Campbell's birthday. We are going to be dedicating to the Evil Dead. So, stay tuned next time, everybody, for The Evil Dead 2. So, until then, check us out, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in with us. And once again, we're on Facebook, Misunderstood Art Company. Check us out. Like, subscribe, share the videos. We release live videos every Monday, and we release recorded videos, such as this one, on Fridays, usually. We're also on YouTube, Misunderstood Art Company on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, and check us out. Comment with anything that you guys would like to see us review or do on the show. And I don't know if you know this or not, but we're on Patreon. So open up your hearts and your wallets. And we're also on all the major platforms for podcasting. So when we do these episodes, they're also available for audio listening as well on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. So thank you very much for tuning in once again. And until next time, Josh.
You know, just like Cheryl, Adam, and Tim, you're just a couple of stupid bitches.
I don't know why I got lumped into that, but whatever, Josh.
Whatever. Fuck you too. And Aaron.
Party down.
Tim.
Don't worry about it. I'm surprised. Again, making me go
him
last.
go last.
Making me
We
go
don't even
last.
get a stay spooky from you, Tim.
Stay spooky. Whatever. Stay spooky.
All right. All right, everybody. See you next time. Thanks.
Good night.